And we're really blessed, I think, to have tonight with us Supervisor Joan Hartman, who's going to go first. For those of you who know, I'm an unabashed supporter, so I will declare my bias right now. I think that we're lucky to have Supervisor Hartman because of her background as an environmental attorney, as a professor in the Claremont schools, as now a county supervisor for us, and someone who's trying to help us lead the fight on appropriate environmental action in our county, supported by a couple other very good supervisors too. I don't mean to in any way diminish the role that Doss Williams is playing or that Greg Hart will play now in the future. But I want to really thank Joan for coming tonight. Supervisor Hartman, would you please share a few words with us?
Let's see, am I on? Yes. Thank you, Ronaldo, and the World Business Academy, and everybody who's here tonight, and my fellow panelists. I'm glad I get to go first, if anybody's heard them speak. It's intimidating. But I can't let the flute music go unremarked. That was so haunting and really spoke to me, a blessing and a prayer about where we are today. It really affected me emotionally. I'm going to talk about what the county is doing, and I'll admit it up front, it's too little. And we need to mobilize, and we need your help. But let me run down what we are doing, and then why it's clear that it's not enough, and some ideas about the future. So the first thing the county has to do, anybody has to do, is audit and clean up your own house. And so the county indeed has a South Coast solar generation facility that powers much of its campus here in the South Coast. And that has turned out to be very cost effective. And so now we're doing an audit in the Betaravian Santa Maria Center and our other buildings to see how we retrofit and where we can get solar, where we have battery storage. So we're doing that. We're also just launched an analysis of our fleet. We need to reduce vehicle miles traveled, and we need to move to electric. So that for the county, that means what proportion of our vehicles can be electric, and where do we put in the infrastructure? And that'll be coming up in the next few months, and the board needs to make a decision about how much money we're willing to pay to begin to transform our fleet, and what percentage we're gonna move, and how quickly to electric. The other thing that we're involved in is permitting commercial energy projects. And our first project was in Kiama, where carrots were being grown basically with ancient water, and now that was converted to solar energy. I think a very smart move, and we recently approved an expansion of that facility there. And there's also the Lompoc Strauss wind project that is in the permit process, wending its way through. So we're cleaning up our own house, and we're trying to promote permitting of commercial solar throughout the county. We're also involved in something called the Clean Energy Roadmap. We began when the Elwood peaker plant, thanks to some work by people up here, was not permitted to be expanded. Yes, and what that means is we were looking in South County with Southern California Edison to see how else we can reduce demand, manage demand, storage, and build more clean energy opportunities here in the South County. And the county took leadership with our sustainability program and brought other jurisdictions in. And so it's worked with nonprofits and cities, and it's been a really good effort to try to identify all the opportunities we have in South Santa Barbara County. Now we're in the process of looking, and we're soon to issue a report about North County as well. And for me, in my district, the 3rd district, which stretches from Isla Vista to Guadalupe and includes the San Ynez Valley, it's very important to think about the drought and what that means for a lot of the cattle ranches. And do we have opportunities where we could have commercial solar where it's at least, we don't know what these rains, how long they'll last, but the drought and cattle is harder on the land. So can we give other opportunities to agricultural interests up there? And instead of making them do the environmental review, we would take that on. We are taking that on from the county and identifying areas where there's where the land is suitable, where there's transmission capacity, where there's not conflicts with other uses. And so we're trying to take that burden on from the counties as a way to encourage the landowners then to step up and install solar in North County. We're also still working on community choice energy, and this is a little tricky because we are served by two different investor-owned utilities, South County by Southern California Edison, North County by PG&E. And the rules for community choice energy are that you have to offer it for the whole county. But we've done several analyses, and it's very different for the different parts of the county. Southern California Edison has a different pricing structure. And in addition to this, the PUC keeps changing the rules, and now we've got PG&E in bankruptcy. So we haven't given up on community choice energy. I assume most people know what that is, but basically, I see Sigrid right back there. She knows what it is because she's been working on this for many, many years. It is a way to capture the funding. The local entity becomes the deliverer of energy, and you can reinvest the profits back into renewable energy. That may have been my timer, but I'll finish here. We also have a climate action plan, and unfortunately what we learned with our last review is that our GHG emissions are up 14%. And this is just in the unincorporated county, but we're now working with other jurisdictions as well to go forward and look at the entire county and all the jurisdictions and what their emissions are. So that's kind of the bad news, 14% up, even when we're trying to do it better. The other bad news is that we have 760 enhanced steam injection wells in the permit process coming to the county with 3 different companies, Era Energy, ERG, and PetroRock, that could emit up to 700,000 metric tons per year greenhouse gases. It's a scale unseen in this county by any set of operations, and it's basically, Ronaldo has described them as the tar sands. So these are moving forward. The draft EIRs are done, and those are coming to the Planning Commission, and then they'll come to the Board of Supervisors on appeal from one side or another. And so technically, I will sit in a quasi-judicial role, but I was on the Planning Commission when we, in Santa Barbara County, instituted the most rigorous demanding greenhouse gas emission threshold for stationary sources at 1 metric ton. So between 1 metric ton and 100 metric tons, we require local mitigation. And how they would mitigate these greenhouse gas emissions is going to be the first question I will be asking. So, despite the critical need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we're adding them faster than at any time in human history. In Santa Barbara County, where the environmental movement was born, we're no different. There was a recent article in The Economist. ExxonMobil is planning to increase production 13% by 2030, and the other majors are right in line with that. So at the same time, the new IPCC report said that we have 11 years to act. And if we'd started in 2000, we could be reducing 2% a year, but now we're to a point where we need to be reducing by 5% a year. We found in our own US report, 13 different agencies determined that our economy would suffer a 10% loss. That's greater than the Great Recession. So we have lots of reason to act, and we find that now 73% of Americans actually acknowledge that global warming exists. But you ask them further, what will you pay? And they won't agree to pay $10 a month. So we have our work cut out for us. And I attended and got to hear Rose speak at the Granada at the 50-year commemoration of the oil blowout here in Santa Barbara. And it was really inspiring to hear her voice and her generation's voice. We need to act, and the Greenpeace speaker said, we've got reports and studies, and we had Al Gore with his PowerPoint and his Academy Award, but somehow people aren't getting it. It's a failure of imagination. We need to get to the creative arts. We need to get people to understand what this means, not in their head, but in their hearts.